little better. Now let's see if I can turn my camera thing back on and see if it freaks out. Not much. Okay, not a bad jump. Okay, this is okay. All right. That might have fixed it a little bit. Just a little bit. Do you have monitors for CPU and GPU? I do not have a GPU monitor, although the it was set on software encoding, and that may have been, that's all CPU. So I've taken some of the load off the CPU by moving it to the GPU, and I think that did it. I think I did it, all right. Maybe that's it. Trying to make my shit work. All right. Now let's see if the video is smoother on this end, or if the panic happens within this part of it. So back to the curse of Trump. Oh, that's stuck there. What is that? That's weird.
We'll be talking about it. We have plenty of time. Does everybody have some time? Yeah.
Oh, by the way, they're gonna regret that scream.
I said, I look forward to the speech. They said, oh, good. I said, how long a flight is it? About 5.5 hours, sir. I said, oh, well, man, can we maybe do it by Zoom? But Zoom will never replace the real thing. Do we agree? Especially for our great young students. It cannot replace being in the classroom, can it? With your help.
Yeah, that's, I mean, nothing works like a mid-COVID talking point.
We will stand up for democracy and for justice. We will fight for truth, transparency, and accountability. And we will not stop.
Accountability? Yeah. By the way, let me check something else as well. I wanna do my own secondary check, if I may. And this might, again, whoops, that wasn't good. It opens up. Let's see. Go to here. Anytime I open a page, yeah, it's the same thing. Amazing. Man, the rain is coming down like crazy here right now. That's, let's see. Trump at turning points. I'm just trying something else also. Whoops. Oh, wrong. That's funny. I have too many keyboards. Trump at, turning points. Okay. See if this comes up. I think, oh, this is a year ago. That's not the one. Hold on. Filters, today. See what they put up. Okay, that's not actually happening. Okay, so, yeah, all right. Well, we'll see if we'll continue this way. Because it should work this way, and I want it to work this way, so this is the goal overall.
Our American birthright of honest, free, and fair elections.
Ugh.
We're gathered here in Phoenix to show our support for election integrity and for the brave and unyielding conservative warriors in the Arizona State Senate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is wonderful. What's this called? Oh, it's called Kirschtorte. I'm not a big fan of desserts myself, but it's lovely.
Created a movement all over the country.
Yes, you have definitely created a bowel movement all over the country.
This is now starting all over the country. I'm hearing Texas wants to do a forensic audit. I just heard.
Yeah, please do a forensic audit of the entire state of Texas.
Even though I won Texas by a lot, I said you should do it because you'll find out what's going on in this country.
The C-SPAN feed is very choppy, and I don't know if it's me. By the way, I'm on because I'm actually testing my setup for tomorrow. So, is this the router derangement speech? Yes, this is where he makes the big router statement.
Country, It's crazy. You know, when you hear defund the police, when you hear no IDs, of course, now they're trying to get into the, oh, we never.
Yeah. You mean the part where they don't want to defund the police and they're fine with... Again, how many times have I said this, but we are fine with voter ID if you give everyone one for free and the states can't take them away. If a right requires some sort of, like, how do I put this in a way that they could possibly understand? If you have I don't know, like, not the First Amendment or the Third Amendment, but something in between, and you went, this right applies, but you can't, no one has a right to keep and bear arms, for example, a right protected in the Constitution, unless you pay the state $22. And you have to do it every 16 months. The NRA and the 2A people would freak out because they would say this is a slippery slope to denying people their rights because it's effectively a gun-related poll tax. And yet, they want to charge everybody for an ID and charge everybody to keep their ID up to date and limit the number of things that you can use as an ID that are free or part of your work or school, in which case you wouldn't have to pay for it because it's rolled into the cost of whatever you're doing. So if you're poor and you're a poor student and you have a student ID, it's provided by the school, and if you have a, not as part of the greater costs, it might be rolled into your scholarship, for example. Yeah. The Republicans think that a nationwide voter ID that's available to everyone is, of course, the mark of the beast.
Never really said that. It's crazy. But when you hear...
Lock them up. Thanks, dude. I do know one thing. Hold on. I think I might have an idea, too. Hold on. Minus. Okay. Take that out. Ooh, that dropped off the use of the CPU a lot. The Brio, that camera was still on. Well, hang on a second. Sorry, dude. You're going to bye-bye. All right. I had a secondary camera plugged in on a USB source, and I'm sure it was using a crap ton of power. And I think we'll see if things get smoother as I remove things.
Open borders. How about open borders? All this stuff.
Stuff they didn't actually say. Yeah, open borders. That's why they said the border is not open in English and Spanish. Hey, they didn't say it in a Waxacan, so did they really mean it?
In my opinion, there's no way...
I don't have a GPU monitor open right now. I have a CPU monitor, and it just dropped to 62%. So I think the Brio was the culprit. So, yeah.
Way they win
I'm testing my setup, so yeah, there we go.
Elections without cheating. There's no way. There's no way. No second.
No second what? Hold on, this is such a weird thing.
Amendment. They're against energy. We were energy independent 2 months ago. Energy independent. Now we're not energy independent. I saw where they're negotiating now with OPEC again. Here we go again. They are negotiating right now with OPEC and with Russia. We had so much oil, we didn't know what the hell to do with it.
The world had so much oil, they didn't know what to do with it. As a matter of fact, it was less than free. If we'd have filled up the strategic oil reserves last June, we would not have needed... We would have made money on the deal. We would have acted as oil storage. Now, and everybody has more oil than they know what to do with right now.
It's not even believable. They closed
No, it is not believable.
So many sites. Today I want to send our profound and everlasting gratitude to every Arizona Republican who had the fortitude and the back.
Oh. National Weather Service. Flash flood warning is in effect where I am until midnight. This is a dangerous and life-threatening situation. Do not attempt travel unless you are fleeing an area subject to flooding or under an evacuation order. I'm in Vegas. I just got a flash flood warning on my watch in Las Vegas. Yeah. All right. This says play. See that? This is a C-SPAN thing. Play right here. Push play and it'll start playing. Down here it still says pause. So it thinks it's playing.
Going to defy
See that?
the lying
now it's
media.
Now it's both pausing. Now it's both playing.
Look
See
at
what I
that.
mean? Something is off with their site.
Ooh, it's a lot of media. A lot of media.
That's a lot of media. Yeah, college media, high school media. Yeah, it's a lot of. There's some influencers that are fantastic. Like, it's gonna be such a show. After this, we're gonna do your brows.
A lot of media. See, the red lights are starting to go off now. They're going, cut, cut. He's at it again. He's talking about the media. Now it's easy. Hey, look, some of the...
Hey, look. Oh, God. I'm just enjoying this kind of roll into, it's this, I mean, if you want to start, basically, I mean, to crib from Mitch Hedberg, Trump's speeches are like pancakes. These folks are super excited, but halfway through, they're fucking sick of it.
Some of them are down almost 80%.
Yes, I can believe it. I'm going to start messing around with this stuff.
Do you believe that?
Yes, I believe it.
And that's because they lose credibility. But I want to, just to finish, we want to demand a full forensic audit of the results of Maricopa County. I particularly want to thank
oh my God.
Arizona Senate President Karen Fann. She's been brave. She's been strong. And I predict when the votes come in, and that's her in the Senate, I think they're going to be so horrible that she's going to go 3 steps.
Gonna go what? Hold on. This is weird.
Further than she ever thought she'd have to.
She's gonna go 3 steps further than she ever thought she'd have to. 3 steps further. What are the first 2 steps past what she ever thought she'd have to do? I mean, obviously, she's ready to overthrow democracy and destroy it to install the birther king, the man who would be a dingling. So what are the other 2 steps?
Because they will
She's gonna behead the Lincoln monument with a memorial with a laser sword and put Trump's head on him.
In my
That's step 2.
And again, I'm not involved. They're involved. This is the Arizona State Senate.
Hey. Listen, Spinach Chin. I never even saw these assholes before.
I think the results will be so outrageous. You've already seen some of them come that they're going to go many steps further than they would have.
They're going to go many steps further than they would have. So much. Where I do.
Some of them come that they're going to go many steps further than they would have.
Than they would have.
Seen some of them come that they're going to go many steps further than they would have. Judiciary Committee Chairman Warren Peterson. Where's Warren? Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Warren.
Yikes.
He's here someplace.
Probably. Yeah, just say hello to a chair. Do you see that? Thank you, Warren. That's not Warren. Warren! He's here someplace. I'll just say hi to somebody and call them Warren. You look like a Warren.
Thank you, Warren.
Thank you, Warren, wherever you may be.
And state, we did win. We really did. Not me. We all won.
Yeah, everybody won. Especially the other Republicans that didn't lose.
Won. Everybody.
Everybody won. You won, I won. Iowa won, we won. I am a winner. You're sort of a winner. We're winning.
You know, when you looked at election night, we were up by so much it was over at 10 o'clock, and then all of a sudden...
Yeah, the Red Mirage, we called it, and everybody was expecting it because of all the Republicans, especially in places like Arizona and Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Georgia, that were going to go, well, we just won't count the absentee votes or the mail-in votes until after midnight, at least, if not the next morning, on Election Day. So it'll totally look like will only count the in-person vote on the day, which is full of super spreader. It's a pandemic. No, it's all bullshit. They just created the disease to try and take down Trump. Lunatics. And lo and behold, it looked like with 20% of the vote in, Trump was killing it.
They closed the tabulation areas. They closed everything.
They closed the tabulation areas. That's why Steve Kornacki slept from 10:30 that night till, I think, noon the next day. If only someone had been awake all goddamn night watching the returns come in with everyone else live streaming it.
And we wake up and all of a sudden it's tied or we're losing.
Yeah, it was, you were losing. Yeah. And by the way, I don't believe you woke up and you were losing. I think he woke up at 4 a.m., did an enormous rail of Pervitin, and started his panic attack well before the actual counting in the later states, which started at dawn or 8 a.m. in a bunch of states.
And nobody believes it. They don't believe it. I tell you right now, they don't believe it.
Well, yeah, they don't believe it because the only people where you're pointing are OAN, Newsmax, Fox didn't cover it. They did a one-on-one interview with Mark Levin.
State Senators J.D.
Mesnard. What? Wait. What?
State Senators J.D. Mesnard.
Wait, why is that freezing?
State Senators J.D. Mesnard.
Mexnard? Did they just edit that? Are they on are they doing Jesus Christ dip on his thing? Miss Mesnard?
Kelly Townsend. Kelly, you've been so incredible. Kelly,
she's sitting, she's who I looked at before. Kelly, you look a lot like Warren. Why are all these assholes sitting in the same spot? Are they all on each other's laps? It's like this human centipede of Republicans.
Thank you. Where's Kelly? Kelly.
She's fine. She's fucking Warren. She's in the back.
Thank you. Great job. Tremendous courage you have. I appreciate it. The whole country appreciates it really a lot.
Really? Yeah, it's super.
Nancy Bart.
Really a lot. Dr. Huffar.
Nancy, wherever you may be. Nancy, thank you.
So Charlie Kirk's anti-seating chart, I guess, is what we're finding out.
Thank you very much. Great job. Thanks, Nancy. Nice to meet
you. Nice to meet you.
See, they all think I'm involved. I'm not involved. These are people that did this by themselves. They wanted to do it. They had to do it.
And then they're pissing off the other Republicans because they helped you in an attempt to get elected. You paid them to allegedly. I'm just going to throw in allegedly. Why not? He doesn't bother to. So I know you're thinking, why would you? Well, because I'm a decent fellow. My working theory on Ohio, Florida, Kentucky, and Texas, and more than likely the other states that he's bitching about, is that he paid to flood these states with fake votes, and that in the areas where he won, they're like, phew, and they're not even paying attention to it. In the areas where he lost, they're like, oh, we paid for these votes, where are they? And the Republicans there are like, yeah, you didn't pay for enough. We made all the votes. You said you needed 65 million votes, and so you needed us to puff these votes in Arizona and in a couple of these counties, and quite frankly, we thought we made plenty, and you broke our algorithm because all these people showed up, real live people, and voted for Biden and just swamped the shit out of even your fake vote that you paid for. And the problem we have, and why you're calling us rhinos now, and you're thinking that there are Republicans without a backbone in these areas, is because we don't want these right-winger nutcases to look, because you'll see that we faked a bunch of your votes. You lost by more than you think you did. Theoretically.
So what
makes to me, that scenario makes more sense than anything he's been saying or that Mike Lindell is saying, and it certainly goes a long way toward just explaining why the Kemps and the Ratzingers of the world, who are not necessarily good people, are like, no, cut, no more, no audits, no. You see all the dead people votes, the dead people did vote, but they all voted for Trump. This is worse than you think. Dude, take you're lucky. You actually lost by 11 million votes.
Going on, and they did it. So I'm meeting some of you for the first time. Senator Kerr, where is Senator Kerr? Senator Kerr, thank you.
Senator Kerr.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Somebody who's been a warrior. Again, I don't know him. Sonny Borelli, he's great. Where's Sonny?
I don't know him. I wouldn't hang out with him. This is a broke son of a I don't even... These are poor people, like state reps. Are you kidding me? I barely know the Republicans I supported for the House. You think I'm going to know a bunch of state senators in these days? What am I, a politician? What am I, the head of a party?
There he is. I recognize that man from television, but I don't know Sonny. But Sonny, you're really an amazing guy and a brave guy and a strong, smart guy. Thank you very much. All of you.
Yeah, everybody's strong, everybody's smart. I don't even know why I'm singling anyone out. It's like a sea of strong and smart here. Couple of dumbasses, rhinos.
Vince Leach. Where's Vince? Thank you, Vince. Thank you. Thank you very much, Vince. Great job. Somebody else who...
Yeah, somebody said you suck, but...
...has really been out there that's been brave, who wants to go many steps further.
Oh, many more? More than 3? More than the 3 steps further than they ever thought they would ever go?
Than anybody. Wendy Rogers.
Oh, Wendy. Wendy. Hold on, I'm going to move this over here if I may. Get this over so I can... No, quit it. I don't want it down like that. Move this over here. Move it. Hold on. Just helps my eye line now that I can move this thing over. Theoretically. Right there? Yeah, that seems all right. Yeah? Does it look like I'm looking at the screen okay? Does that look like... All right. You gotta forgive me. It's I'm still arranging stuff. By the way, thanks for everybody for joining and jumping in here right now. I'm just doing a stream test, so trying to make sure all my stuff works. And I appreciate the we got 61 new subscribers. Thank you, Girls Rocks Player. Thank you. Let's see. I missed that little. I've got to move my SIGBUG up here. That's got to do here. Quit. Is that it? Yeah, there we go. Move this over here. So, Hot Pal, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Thanks for jumping in here with us. Good times. Come on, you. All right, here we go. Let's keep at it. I'm curious. Let's see if this works. This C-SPAN video is very choppy on this thing, but it's one of the few places I can find this because they, like YouTube kicked it off.
Thank you, Wendy. Great job.
Something with his lower jaw.
He's the answer.
The lower jaw thing is a speed thing. A lot of people, get coke jaw and start doing that business. This thing is a speed jaw. It's like people get like TMJ. Yeah, that's what I was looking for by touching my face. Yeah.
Early on,
thanks, Nika
we're
Crinkles.
waiting for results, but you knew the answer. And I think Kelly Townsend is around someplace.
Thanks, MLG, for the ad time. I appreciate that.
Kelly. Where's Kelly? Good, okay, good. I just...
Fucking romper room for 20 minutes.
I didn't see you in the audience. Now I want to... Okay, so, by the way, Kelly has to get a special. Really great. Wendy, Kelly, Borelli, what a group. I wouldn't want to fight.
Wendy, Kelly, Borelli.
I wouldn't want to...
Liza Minnelli.
Fight you. Thank you.
I wouldn't want to fight you. Do I have a power backup? No. I do have enough reinforced and power strips that nothing will get fried. If lightning strikes the house, we're good. If it floods, we got bigger fish to fry. Okay, don't care. Skipping ahead.
I like that. Wendy, we just have a new one. Wendy, Kelly, and Borelli. That's going to be a very famous statement someday, I suspect. Good.
A very famous statement someday, I suspect. Shit. How does it... Good Lord, man. Play.
Great to meet you. Great. Republican Party Chairwoman, somebody that has tremendous courage, I will tell you. Somebody that's been fighting so long and so hard, and has so little to show for it. She never stops, and some people love her, and some people don't like her as much. I happen to love her. But she's really a fighter, and she fights your governor who doesn't do a damn thing. I mean, she's fighting. He doesn't do a damn thing.
Well, he does govern the state. He does do shit to, for the people of Arizona, I guess. Nah, fuck it. He's a Republican. Eat him.
Chairwoman.
By the way, let me, if I may, this is super weird. This
Kelly Ward. Kelly.
This speech is odd in its lack of quality. So give me 1 second. I want to try something real quick, just to see if I can. Let me find something. All right, let's see if our dear friend CSL has a couple of things that he put up that are there or whatever. Enjoy the view for a moment. I'm gonna jump in here. Let's see. He threw in here. Let's grab something. Who's crazy? Oh, here we go. This is. Hold on. This is as lunatics go, this will work. Now I won't be able to. This is Newsmax's Rumble thing, and classic, deeply upset and frightened Greg Kelly. So this will be a good thing for us to look at and see if it plays better than the C-SPAN clip of Trump, which is like 2 hours. So it might have buffering issues of its own.
Clearly, this was a deadly insurrection.
Clearly, they were attempting to overthrow our government.
Clearly.
This is an insurrection.
Last week's insurrection was shocking and tragic.
We've seen an unprecedented insurrection in our capital and a brutal attack on our democracy on January the 6th.
There is a presidential-inspired insurrection. Plain and simple, an insurrection.
The President of the United States incited insurrection against our country.
The insurrection was an existential crisis.
By the way, that audio lag in that was theirs, not mine.
It's a test of whether our democracy could survive.
It wasn't an insurrection.
It wasn't. It really wasn't an insurrection at all. And the Democrats are trying to. I'm working on my Greg Kelly.
It's not an insurrection. It wasn't. They are lying / exaggerating to score.
Lying/exaggerating. You know who did some lying and slashing and exaggerating? Some of the insurrectionists.
For political points.
So you're like, one guy jabbed a flagpole into a cop's eye. That would, I mean, more of a stab than a slash, but sure.
Points. It's interesting. We have a huge exaggeration going on, and maybe a cover-up at the same time.
Very exciting. A huge cover-up.
About the events surrounding January 6th. I'd like to bring in Tom Fitton.
Well, I'm sorry, you can't. I won't allow it. I'm sorry. You can't bring in Tom Fitton. I know you'd like to, but it just can't be done. I mean, he's far too pasty. There's, honestly, no one has a white balance good enough to get both of you on screen at the same time without blowing out everyone's monitors. I just don't think. All right.
Of Judicial Watch.
Ooh, God. Tom, I am not here to confine you in your gender expression at all. I happen to think that if you intended to do this, it's fine. I mean, you might look a little mommy dearest, but if you're doing it on purpose, hey, I'm not here to yuck your yum. But too much rouge. Remember, Tom. Whores use rouge, ladies pinch, I think is the phrase around Newsmax. Just ask around.
He's been all over January 6th, and his group has filed several lawsuits, actually,
against Maybelline.
Get important records from and surrounding that event.
I mean, that is some serious powder as well.
Tom, welcome back to Newsmax. How are you?
Yeah, it's okay. Forget the name of your show or the name of your network.
You?
Hey, good to be with you again. Thanks, Greg.
Tom, overall, and I know you haven't, there hasn't been much cooperation from the authorities.
Yeah, no one actually thinks they have to answer to you for any reason.
In giving material, making it available. When they act like this, do you think, in your experience, they are actively concealing something?
Yeah, it's probably that it really was Antifa. A bunch of Antifa people 6 years ago started putting on weight, getting divorced, buying a lot of guns, racking up charges for domestic violence and petty theft, and then went, okay, now we're ready to pose as maggots.
Yeah, hiding.
Is the tip of my nose shiny? I beg your pardon. You're right. It is a bit shiny. I have no makeup on. I'm sorry. I probably, you know what? I should not have made fun of Tony Clifton here. What's his name again?
Records in an unusual way. I think people can fairly draw conclusions they don't want something coming out. For instance, you were talking about the shooting death of Ashley Babbitt. The U.S. Capitol Police has...
Yes, the Capitol Police, which is different from the Capitol Police. The Capitol Police is their jurisdiction is just people's capillaries or their hats.
None of the transparency requirements that virtually every other major police force in the country has.
Yeah, because they're sharing the security personnel and circumstances within the Capitol, that would open it up to foreign entities that might, I don't know, in the future want to destroy our country. And so normally Republicans would be very understanding that we don't just explain everyone and everything that happens within the Capitol from a law enforcement standpoint so as to not endanger them. So they go, oh, who's the hero? So there's like 6 main dudes. Cool. Can we get a list of their names and post them online and then raise their profile a lot so that, if I'm Russia or Iran or ISIS or something like that, I know that snuffing that dude or killing that woman will demoralize and upset the entire group, whether I do it overtly and claim credit for it or covertly in some other way. I can literally upend the security of the nation's capital just by fucking with certain people, all because Greg Kelly wants them named because they shot someone who climbed through a smashed window as they were evacuating the members of Congress during our peaceful exchange of power.
And they've refused to provide any information to anyone asking questions. So we sued directly the D.C. Police Department, which would have done some investigations here, and we're getting stonewalled there.
Yeah, and you should get stonewalled everywhere, especially at that diner where you went in, ordered a glass of milk and 1 pancake. This has got to be some sort of white supremacist troll artwork, doesn't it? It has to be.
We've sued for the videos. We sued for emails of the Capitol Hill Police.
I would sue your makeup artist.
Sued for information about what Nancy Pelosi was up to. I mean, the irony of this whole January 6th investigation is that the subject of the investigation are the decision makers on related to security at the Capitol that day.
That's weird. really the decision makers at the Capitol that day let me see if I can scroll. I mean, I've shown this also before already, but I just, let's see, down further. Where's my, let's see, scrolling down. Excuse me one second while I'm just looking for something. I'm just gonna, let's try this, do this. Oh, here we go. Like this little piece of information. You know what I mean? If you're like looking for that thing, you know, the temporary, hold on, let me see if I can blow this up a little bit or something, or shrink it down a little bit. Does that happen? There we go. That was my response, by the way. As I showed this or whatever, the memorandum from the Secretary of the Army that shows that they were, you know, the White House stopped that shit. Hold on. Oh, that opened up another window. Where did I put him? Did I close that window? Son of a bitch must pay. Oh, that's Chrome. Okay, so I was in Safari. Or maybe, hold on. No, there it is. Okay. Recently visited. There it is. I have to reopen this. Beg your pardon. Sorry, everybody.
If you're trying to lose belly fat, stop doing cardio.
Yeah.
This sounds backwards, right? Well,
no, it doesn't.
Believe it or not, it's actually true.
I agree.
Stop spending hours on the elliptical to get...
Clearly, this was a deadly insurrection.
Okay,
Clearly, Nancy Pelosi was up to. I mean, the irony of this whole January 6th investigation is that the subject of the investigation are the decision makers on related to security at the Capitol that day. Riots occur. Violence occurs in crowd situations, oftentimes almost...
Yeah, just crowds. I mean, you and I've been, you know, many of us to, like, I went to Monsters of Rock many times, where a band known as Metallica played a song called Damage Incorporated, and a mosh pit broke out in an isolated section of the center stage where people were jumping around and flailing arms and shoving into each other. No one was had any permanent injuries whatsoever. The rest of us all were singing along and raising our fists in the air and doing evil horns and whatnot. Clearly, any crowd that's going to happen in general, like, I mean, look at, honestly, I've seen more violence at a Black Friday sale than I've seen at a Metallica concert. So obviously there's a reason that often some crowds will become violent. One of them might be that the leader of that crowd says, we're going to go down there and we're going to walk down there peacefully and patriotically, but when we get there, we're going to show some strength because these people need to know, and if they don't do what we're saying, well, we're going to be very upset. Anyways.
Almost always.
Yeah, almost always. Anytime there's a crowd, especially a political rally, people are going to walk up to the Capitol and start smashing windows. I mean, it happens every time there's an inauguration. I mean, aren't you tired of it?
Because of political decision-making by leaders who run police departments. And in this case, it's Nancy Pelosi who's ultimately responsible.
Well, yeah, except the fact that they were overrun. They have a limited staff and a limited availability of stuff, and they were denied the right to have a lot of the defensive weapons that they would have had, and the National Guard backup, which they would have needed in this circumstance, was not only denied initially, but delayed on the day on purpose. So obviously, in suing Nancy Pelosi and suing the Capitol Police. But please, tell me again how Democrats are anti-back the blue or what have you. That at no point did you sue for a copy of Christopher Miller's memorandum denying the use of the National Guard that day because it's readily available. You don't have to sue it, and it's obviously the reason why there was not enough staff.
For the failures of security that day.
You were the one who uncovered, I believe, the records that we all wanted regarding Officer Brian Sicknick. Now, let's be clear. Any police officer who joins the police department, I think he's a hero. But there was...
Yeah, you think? But, look, anybody who joins, I think he's a hero.
so much misinformation about his death. First, he was, pummeled to death by Trump supporters. Then he was hit in the head with a fire extinguisher thrown by Trump supporters. And it turns out he died of natural causes.
Yeah, naturally, if you get hit in the head by a fire extinguisher or pummeled to death or sprayed in the face with chemical irritants and you have a biological reaction to them, naturally, you're going to die.
Do you think that was a comedy of errors, those early reports, or?
Yeah, I think it's hilarious, the initial reports. Now do the cop that was thank you but fuck you for being there, which I think needs to be a country song, and who was tased so many times he had a heart attack, and they only didn't kill him because he said, I have kids, and somebody's came to their fucking senses. Do we? All right, hold on. I think, you have to give me a break here. I know I'm in the middle of a test, but it's worth it to try it. Let's see. Let's see. What's a good one? Let's see. That's in there. Let's see. Yeah, here you go. This is, tell us about this, Greg Kelly.
On the west front of the building, the mob continued to grow, continued to beat the officers as they tried to get in. In this new security video, you can see a hockey stick, a bullhorn, and a Trump flag. I want to show you that same attack from the officer's perspective from his body camera footage.
These are the people that Greg Kelly believes are patriots.
I'm sorry I have to show you the next video. But in it, you will see how blessed we were that on that hellish day, we had a peacemaker like Officer Hodges, protecting our lives, our staff's lives, this Capitol, and the certification process. May we do all we can in this chamber to make sure that never happens again.
Just to clarify, Trump supporters, Greg Kelly's viewers, and people, and quite frankly, he believes that the cops had it coming. So please continue to tell us about how you actually, pretend you give a shit about Sicknick's life, and how the results of being sprayed with a chemical irritant and the beating he took that day absolutely contributed to his death. Fuck you, Greg Kelly.
Active deception.
Probably a little bit of both.
Yeah, this was all show. These are all Antifa, right, Greg Kelly? Look at this. You can see that's a Black Lives Matter Bass Pro Shop hat. That's where in that? How could anybody think otherwise?
It is the government after all, so you always.
It is the government after all. Okay, look, I don't know how this happened, but we have gone from question, like a healthy level of questioning of what government does in our name, and our recognition that there's probably an 80-20 balance. In all honesty, all hyperbole aside. 80% of the stuff that's done in our name as the public, by government, genuinely, and I'm not talking about graft or anything that somebody does that's not the administration policy or the governmental policy of the United States, is absolutely in line with the electorate of the United States. Even the ugly stuff, there's parts where we're like, well, it's not a perfect world, the world is dangerous. 80% of the time, we're with you. 20% of the time, it's below radar or black site stuff, and we are either actively against it or are against it only because it's already happened and we are benefiting from the fact that it had happened. And therefore, since we're alive to appreciate and denigrate what happened, we can go, that was awful what they did. I mean, there's a very strong chance I might have been killed if they hadn't done it, but I don't support that. And the only reason you have the ability to do that is because you have the privilege of being alive, because someone else did something awful in your name. That's part of the reality of it. We have gone from the awareness of that 80-20 reality and talking about it like adults and going, we need oversight and we need to make sure that we have a strong hand and a secure hand between what we need as policy in the country and what gets carried out. We've gone from that to the Democrats largely being the codifying force of that 80-20 concept, and the Republicans full on being like Russian disinfo level. The U.S. government is a force for evil in the world, and it's an absolute governmental paranoia. Like just FEMA camps, Agenda 21, like they're going to round everybody up, and they are full on at this point the party of Alex Jones. Yeah. Just for the record. Okay, where did I go? Here you go. I need to move this over.
To presume incompetence in addition to malfeasance. In the case of withholding the information about the actual cause of his death, I think it's fair to conclude that it was withheld for political reasons. Certainly, they didn't want it coming out before the impeachment of Donald Trump. Remember that abusive impeachment? We're supposed to forget that.
Dude, honest to God, if Sicknick hadn't died, for real, if Sicknick had survived or even been hospitalized, do you think all the other stuff that happened on January 6th we'd have just waved it off? Does anyone believe that? Does anyone believe that the death of Officer Sicknick was like, all right, the guy who got his spinal column cracked, and the guy who lost an eyeball, and the guy who lost a thumb, and the guy who was almost tased to death, and the woman who got stomped to death, and who was a maggot herself, and the fact that they breached the Capitol and smeared shit on the walls and stole a laptop. One of the person who fucking stole the laptop tried to sell it to Russia. We would have just let all that slide if Sicknick hadn't had lived. Oh, hi, Bicycle Mike. I went live about 40 minutes ago, something like that. 48 minutes ago. I'm just testing my gear, and I'm glad I did because we worked out something so that tomorrow will work. So, beg your pardon if it's off time or whatever. I'm just doing this little clip on here to see if my stuff works. So, no one believes, and that includes this asshole and Greg Kelly, that if Sicknick hadn't died, we'd have just gone, what impeachment? Or that it wouldn't have been valid or worthwhile to impeach Trump. Like, it's only a real insurrection if somebody dies. And so the implication is that, he didn't really die because of it. So everybody else who was injured because of it, all the property that was destroyed, the gallows they hooked up, the fact that they were marching through yelling, hang Mike Pence, that there were people there looking to shoot or hang or dismember Nancy Pelosi, Mike Pence, AOC, any Democrat, which meant, by the way, any person of color that was a staffer as well, because they would have assumed that person, whether or not they were a staffer for a Republican or something, was a Democrat. They were done for. That's why Ashley Babbitt got killed, because they breached that door, which had been barricaded.
And the fact is that it was only after we sued did the Office of D.C. Medical Examiner finally release the information about
Yeah, tell us.
The true cause of his death. He wasn't bashed on the head. He didn't die because he was bashed in the head with a fire extinguisher. He died tragically from a stroke that occurred after the event.
A stroke that occurred after the event. Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't have happened. That would have happened anyways. He was probably just gonna have a stroke the next day anyways. Nothing that happened on that day contributed to his death by stroke. I mean, he was old, man. He was like 92. He was the oldest Capitol Police officer. I mean, look at it, how gray his hair was. Clearly he was ready for a stroke.
So this is just another example of, obviously I'm president of Judicial Watch, so I'm going to promote Judicial Watch. But
so what? Sorry, Judicial Watch isn't a thing. I know you've bullshitted people into giving you money for a long time, and you have this illusion that you are somehow an equal to the ACLU or something like that. You're not. Judicial Watch is like 9 lawyers wagging their dicks at the courts for conservative causes. You don't do shit. You don't. And the most you've managed to do is draw out the fact that you and Greg Kelly think that Sicknick's stroke the next day after the insurrection was natural and was not brought on by anything that happened on the day, which included him being sprayed with chemical irritants and being beaten.
But isn't it outrageous that this day, which we're told is the worst day in American history?
No one has said that.
It's only Judicial Watch is trying to get basic information about what happened that day.
No. The FBI is arresting hundreds of people, and they are interviewing all those people and taking statements and gathering phone records and gathering interviews. That's a lot of fucking info. You're not the only person who gives a shit about it by any stretch. That's a ludicrous assertion.
About security? About what police were doing?
No, we all know there were issues. We want to know why the National Guard was not allowed to help with that security when Trump knew full well, and it was in his speech, that they were going to march down there, and they had no right to do it. When they crossed the Capitol grounds, the minute they crossed that grounds, there should have been a release of the National Guard. Like, suit up, guys, this is an emergency, the Capitol's under attack. End of story. Hours passed. Hours. That's the question.
About who was actually hurt and injured in the case of Officer Sicknick, if there were issues there. And we're still getting stonewalled.
Oh, so Sicknick probably hurt some poor rioter. That's what we really need to know. That's what Judicial Watch is looking into. Did Sicknick die of a stroke caused by guilt?
Believe me, there are other requests we have pending, dozens of requests, that the police department, the Capitol Police, refused to disclose to us.
Yes, I don't know if you know this, but I've been named as the official spokesperson for the Capitol Police in terms of all dealings with Judicial Watch and Tom Filton, and I have a statement right here. Fuck you. Thank you for joining us. I will not be taking any questions.
And I'm concerned, Greg, that we're going to get more of the same from this.
I'm concerned that it is Maybelline.
January 6th investigation being run by Pelosi and Adam Schiff. Remember the last investigation they ran? They were taking phone records of American citizens, specifically Giuliani, and then publishing them. Without a court-authorized subpoena. They said they could do it on their own. Are they going to start spying on Americans to just distract from their own malfeasance here?
No, they're not.
It seems like they've weaponized the day. If you raise...
Weaponized the day. That's interesting, Greg, because on the day, Trump supporters weaponized the American flag, you turd.
Questions about the day, or so help you if you defend or say perhaps some of these folks don't belong in jail anymore.
No, they belong in jail.
Or like even Jacob Chansley with the horns. they'll try to say that somehow you had something to do with the insurrection. If you have
No, I don't think you, Greg, you've never actually been useful to anything. You weren't useful in the insurrection. You're not useful now. You have no function. Greg Kelly. No one's going, oh my God, Greg Kelly was behind the whole thing. If you were behind the whole thing, they would have gone to the Lincoln Memorial. They would have raided an elementary school, Capitol Middle School, 6 blocks away. If Greg Kelly was in charge, they would have raided a Baby Gap and wore the suits. This was the fact that this happened, and as successful as it was, even as it was unsuccessful, proves that Greg Kelly had nothing to do with it.
Concerns about the election, fairness of the election in 2020, they're trying to take those off the table by making this the worst day in history and saying...
No one's saying it's the worst day in history. Nobody. I mean, I understand hyperbole for hyperbole's sake, but don't be a dickhead. Have you heard anyone, Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, anybody, even the ones who were saying stuff are like, this is the worst attack on the Capitol since the War of 1812, since the Civil War, this is the most... But understanding that the Civil War and the War of 1812 and Pearl Harbor were way fucking worse. Especially things like 9/11 and Pearl Harbor, which I don't know why you're not name-checking those. Oh, I know now, because they actually contradict your idiotic point.
Concerns about the election led to this. It is a...
No, concerns about the election did not lead to this. No. The belief by these people that they could install Trump as baby king is what led them to this. Not concerns about the election. Concerns about the election would drive them to make sure that they, ran as electoral board chairman next time and made sure that there were proper voting procedures in their areas the next time around. Concerns about the election.
A false, weaponized narrative, and I think it's, strangely enough, it's working. There should be about...
Yeah, I'll tell you why, Greg, if you want to know. The reason why it's working is because it's valid, and your point isn't.
Let's face it, 50 other groups demanding the information that you're seeking as well.
Yeah, there's no doubt the Justice Department treats this group of people who they say were Trump supporters, and
they were
Republicans and conservatives, different.
Well, I will go with Republicans. I'm sure they all voted for Trump and he's a Republican. I don't know that I would say that, therefore, all Republicans equal that, which is what you're trying to scare all the other Republicans who you think are watching who aren't. I don't even know why I'm arguing this point. The rouge is creeping me out.
When they commit misconduct and violate the law, then similarly situated leftists and communists.
Sorry. Yeah. It is the assertion of Judicial Watch and Greg Kelly that the Capitol is pretty much the same as a Target in St. Louis. What's the difference? Right? What's the difference between a riot that breaks out and a Target or a barber shop or a car dealership or a Starbucks that gets burned and the Capitol being raided by a political party during the vote certification to stop it from happening and hang the vice president? What's the difference? One, you walk out with more baby shoes than you paid for, maybe a flat screen and a roller and some Gatorade, and you say something untoward to a local TV reporter, and then it burns down, and then Target, as a corporation, has to file an insurance claim and they rebuild it. What's the difference between that and a bunch of Trump supporters with this asshole in the vanguard, by the way? You understand that the folks like this that were inside the building were the guys at the front who managed to get inside, dragging a cop down a flight of stairs and tasing him until he had a heart attack, and one guy beating him with a Blue Lives Matter flag. What's the difference? What's the difference between the Capitol and a Starbucks? Right, Greg?
And in many ways, this isn't even about 2020 anymore, Greg.
No, it's not about 2020 anymore. I mean, it is to Trump and everyone around him, and I mean, it's not about 2020 because it's over because there is no question.
I like wood.
All right. Oops. Oh, I keep forgetting which mouse I'm using for stuff. That's my bad. I beg your pardon.
It's about 2022 and 2024, and keeping key players off the table and on their heels as they seek to retain and obtain power in the future.
What do you mean? Gozar?
And obviously Donald Trump being target number one.
By the way,
No. He is Donald Trump is not target number one. He's target number 2, technically. And in the SDNY case, he's like target number 15. They're going after a bunch of people.
we just saw some pictures of guys that we know, Big O at Nancy's desk, and yeah, he's going to be punished, and he already has. He's already spent plenty of time in jail.
No, I don't think he's spent plenty of time. I think he's got plenty more time to spend in jail. And by the way, if he wasn't an asshole and a fuck up during his bail hearing, he'd be out.
Well, you know,
yeah, go ahead.
Look, I witnessed violence during the Kavanaugh hearings. I was there in the whole courtroom. I saw it was out of control that day. They were intimidating senators, resisting arrests, and they were treated very differently. And certainly they were trying to blow up the Senate and stop Kavanaugh from being confirmed.
Hey.
Yeah, I mean, remember during the ACA when all those disabled people parked their wheelchairs in the hallways and that kind of stuff? I mean, what's the difference? What's the difference between burning down a Target, a bunch of ACA activists, or the ADA people, showing up at the Capitol to do a civil disobedient arrest? And what's the difference between that and this asshole wiping turds on the walls?
We saw
different treatment.
Totally. We saw basically 300 riots for a year, $1 billion worth of damage, perhaps, and nobody seen. That was all beautiful. That was.
No, actually. One second. I know. I didn't mean to do this as a full show, and I appreciate you guys jumping in here. Since this is working, I might as well jump in here. Let's see. Let's just pick a. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it's. I've often seen people arrested for things that are beautiful. Haven't you? Protests resume after 120 arrests in St. Louis. Unrest. Protesters chanting "Free Our People" gathered outside the jail in downtown St. Louis on Monday night. Let's see. Maybe there's a. Let's see. Is there a? Let's see. Where else do we do more than? Let's see. Here's a little while later. More than 80 arrested as riot police break up St. Louis protest over officers' acquittal. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Stunning development, city to go. 34. Okay, pending applications of warrants, 5th Street. Okay, let me try Minneapolis, since that's where it all started, right? Here's August 27th. More than 130 arrested during civil unrest in downtown. Let's see. Hold on. I have a hard time grabbing these. That's one of the things I'm going to have to work on as far as being able to see this stuff right here. Okay, whoops. That's not what I want to put it in front. There you go. We'll go back to him. Needless to say, but beautiful. I mean, anytime you have something beautiful, there's going to be 140 people arrested.
It was all beautiful when they took over the Minneapolis police station and burned it down. Remember?
Okay, let's see. Let's see. Go to this guy right here. There you go. Have to grab up in here. Quit this. Go up in here. Grab this over here. Let's see. Charges, police headquarters, riot. Let's try that. Well, this might be a little rough, and this is probably. I think I found out why Greg Kelly's upset, guys. I think I know. Hold on, let me move this page over here so we can get ready. I think I know, because someone was a judge found that someone who set fire to the Minneapolis Police Department headquarters, or the police station in the 3rd Precinct, I think it was arrested and was charged and fined for doing it. And I think I know why Greg Kelly is upset. Man fined $12 million for police station arson during George Floyd protests. Welp. He clearly looks like Black Lives Matter all the way. A man has been ordered to pay $12 million for his role in setting a Minneapolis police station on fire during rioting last May. The fine for Dylan Shakespeare Robinson, 23, who pleaded guilty to an arson charge in December, will follow a 4-year prison sentence. His lawyer said there is no realistic chance of his client being able to afford the fine. 3 other men who also pleaded guilty will be sentenced at a later date. What happened at the police station? In May of last year, thousands of people took to the streets. Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was fired, blah, blah, blah. Mr. Floyd's death and subsequent protests triggered weeks of unrest. Among the demonstrators was Dylan Robinson of Brainerd, Minnesota. Brainerd, isn't that where... That's where some of the people in the movie Fargo lived. A town about, I'll go check the darn cars. According to prosecutors, Robinson lit a Molotov cocktail, which another person then threw at the Minneapolis 3rd Precinct headquarters, setting the building ablaze. Surveillance video at the precinct shows Robinson lighting an incendiary device held by another person and later setting a fire inside the station near a first-floor stairwell. Mr. Robertson chose to depart from lawful protest and instead engaged in violence and destruction, said Acting U.S. Attorney Anders Folk in a statement. The arson, quote, put lives at risk and contributed to widespread lawlessness in Minneapolis. Robinson pleaded guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to commit arson. 3 other men, Bryce Michael Williams, Devon DeAndre Turner, and Brandon Michael Wolf, pleaded guilty to the same charge as part of a plea agreement. They have yet to be sentenced. Robinson's lawyer, who is representing all 4 men, said the 23-year-old has been unfairly singled out among thousands of others involved in the riots last year. He is bearing the sentence for the other 1,000 people who participated. Attorney William Mousy told the New York Times on Wednesday. Many others far more culpable than Mr. Robinson were not identified. Yeah, dipshit, that would be the problem right there. Your client was identified. How will the fine be paid? In nickels and license plates. In addition to his 4-year jail term, Robinson has been fined $12 million in damages. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office, which has prosecuted the case, the restitution will be collected in a variety of ways, including wages, bank accounts, retirement garnishments, and a monthly pay plan typically set by a judge. Robinson will only be able to pay a minuscule amount towards that, his lawyer said. None of the defendants have ability to pay significant sum. By the way, this is in case they write a book, just in case you're wondering. Dude, nobody was charged. I mean, Greg Kelly obviously is very upset because the burning of the Minneapolis Police Department, 3rd Precinct headquarters, was, people, they brought marshmallows. Nobody got charged in that shit.
Total double standard.
Yeah, total double standard. Hey, I have a question. How many members of the Capitol rioters who assaulted police officers, built a gallows, sought to an attempted murder conspiracy to kill Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi, how many of them have been fined $12 million?
We're so glad you're on the case. So, Tom Fitton, hey, by the way, you got a great book. Let's go ahead and put that up if we can.
You can't. No, it didn't work. Mr. Producer, why is the picture not up? It's cut off. You can't even say his name. You left up the thing with the Judicial Watch suit, and it's good information, Mr. Producer. But New York Times bestseller, didn't make the top 10, but it's on the list of 200 top-selling books because they buy it in bulk.
The name of the book, A Republic Under Assault, the left's ongoing...
The irony of that name.
...attack on American freedom. Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch. Thank you, sir, very much. To be continued.
Thank you.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Fuck yeah. Yeah, those kids, I tell ya. Hi. Oh, yeah, Hallie, do I try and add Hallie to this broadcast? Although I will say, if I just put on as much rouge as Tom Fitton, what was his name? Fitton of Judicial Watch had on, I'm basically Hallie at that point. Yeah. So, let me see if I can move this page. There you go. Get that out of the way. And I'll reopen this page. I'm gonna end up. I can't end up doing. It's too late to do a whole show like this. Wait, quit. I don't want to open it. There you go. Get over here, you jerk. Okay, Where are you, you weirdo? Let's see if I can just... Maybe if I close that window. That'll do it. There you go. I'm going to have to find a way to set up my stuff so that I can see the... I can look at the window so I can see the... But as it... as it's progressed, and we fixed some of the stuff, it seems to be working pretty good. Thanks, guys, for jumping in with me. I appreciate you guys being here for the road test of this. Ladies call it blush. Don't go yet, Hal. Keep testing your system. Oh, I'll try. Hold on one second. Let's see. What can we do? Let's see. We'll grab something and give it a try. Oh, God, no. This is terrible. Cuba's comments from the beginning of the end. Glenn Beck on Rudy Giuliani's show? No. Maria Ryan. This is... Okay, more... Jersey of half the crime family. Oh, my God. That's so lame. Let's see. You know who we can always be counted on for a good short video of... let's see. Is Don Jr. I need to find something that really works. Oh, God. This is horrible. Hold on. This shall do it. This shall handle it. Oh, God. Hi, guys. This is Don Jr. lamenting LA's new reinstatement of a mask mandate. Which, while it'll keep you from getting the flu, common colds, any kind of respiratory illness whatsoever, it's useless against COVID, clearly. Guys,
authoritarian.
Guys, I touch my thumb and my finger to help me seem serious and remember my points. Guys, okay, check notes.
Are gonna authoritarian. That's what they do.
Authoritarians are gonna authoritarian. Jesus Christ.
That's what happens when you give up your rights and blindly follow dictators.
Yeah, nobody's blindly following dictators. Seriously, a mask mandate that you can take off your mask to eat and drink, which in a movie theater everybody does, which in a restaurant everybody does, which in a bar everybody does.
So, in breaking news...
Okay, is there an echo on this guy? Hold on. Yeah, that's a weird one. Let me see if I can fix that. Hold on.
On Thursday afternoon, Los Angeles County.
Okay, why is that? Let me see. Guys, work with me, guys. Let's see. Let's turn this guy off. Built-in output. I'll turn that off. Maybe there's 2 versions of it here. Let's see. Hopefully this will carry some of it. There's a weird, I hear a slapback to it.
In California, just announced that it will reimpose an indoor mask mandate.
Dude, are you he's reading again? Hold on, this is good. All right, so I think. All right, thanks for hanging out, guys. It helps me work out the kinks. I'm gonna open my Wavelink sound software and see if that's what's causing the double loop, because it very well may be the culprit. We'll try it out. We'll see. Or it might be just...
Regardless of your vaccination.
Okay. Regardless of your vaccination status. Yeah, that's because they have a choice. Stupid. Here's the choice. You can either start asking people their vaccination status or just say, everybody put your mask back on. And the reality is that asking everybody to put their mask back on is a lot safer than saying, no, we're going to need to see your vaccine card, because one of you assholes will go nuts and shoot a bunch of people. That's what this is all about. That's the really big scare here. Hold on.
Status beginning Saturday night at 11:59.
What is that? Doubling up of the desktop audio on this thing.
9 p.m. Now, a couple of things come to mind. We've all read the Fauci emails. We've all seen what even he thinks and says about masks. It's not necessarily in line with the narrative that we were sold for 18 months.
It's exactly in line with the quote-unquote narrative that we were sold for 18 months. The science on whether or not masks would be effective stopping something like COVID, more so than, say, staying the fuck home, had some wiggle room, some debate. I mean, obviously, doctors wear them so they don't spit shit into your wound while they're, doing surgery on you. In infectious disease wards, nurses and doctors wear masks themselves so they don't breathe in some of your particulate. But the question about whether or not a coronavirus or a flu or specifically COVID would be able to beat a mask, like whether you're just wearing something and it's not going to be effective, or whether or not it would stop you from spreading it or someone spreading it to you, there was no definitive science. There was a lot of anecdotal information about it. But they don't deal in anecdotal at the CDC and the NIH. They have, safety and best practices is probably a good idea. But at a certain point, if you're vacillating between don't go anywhere or go out wearing a mask, we don't know whether masks will help or whatever, whether it's going to do any good or stop it or not. So stay the fuck home. This is initially the beginning of it. And then by June, multiple countries had done multiple studies on whether or not wearing a mask stopped you from spreading it and stopped you from getting it specifically. And the reality was that not only, even the shitty masks that some people wore, while it didn't stop them from getting COVID, lowered the viral load of them getting it so that they didn't need hospitalization. Their body wasn't overwhelmed when it was fighting it. It could arguably be the reason why a lot of it was asymptomatic, was because especially in the beginning, the viral load was so low because it was, amongst all this other shit that's in the air, they were able to fight it off. People were able to fight it off. But as more and more people around you have it, you get more of a dose of it, and then that's mainly why this Delta variant, murder spree is happening amongst the right. No one anywhere is saying, there really is no information. It's all a lie. Masks don't help. It's just dumb. It's just, it's a narrative from his point of view. Jesus.
But regardless.
With regard to wearing masks, the science has spoken. Last June, definitive studies came in across the globe saying, actually, not only does it stop you from spreading it, but it lowers the chances of you being hospitalized or dying if you do get it, because you get less of it in your body, and your body has more of a chance to fight it off.
We all have seen it. We all understand the efficacy. We have
No, you don't.
also heard a lot about if you get vaccinated, you can go back to normal. You're not going to be at risk. Why would you have to worry about mask mandates?
Because we were dealing with the wild version, not the Delta variant, and the Delta variant, because it ran wild and was a mutant strain that was incredibly strong, that grew out of India and started spreading around, especially in the UK, and then came here, that they don't know the science on whether or not your vaccine will be able to protect you enough from it, statistically enough. Now, obviously, the statistical danger you have starts getting into lower than seatbelt territory. The number of times you wear a seatbelt versus the number of times it saves your life is very minimal until you're not wearing one on the day. See how that works? Dipshit.
Et cetera, but more important...
Et cetera.
If this was such an emergency, remember, we're in a pandemic. People's lives are at stake. You're going to kill your grandmother.
No, I'm not going to kill my grandmother. My grandmothers are all dead. I don't want to kill some grandmother I've never met.
Remember the things we've heard for the last 18 months?
Yes, you sounding like a coked out asshole at a party, your panic attacks, your weird glassy-eyed, confused way of saying, guys. Yeah, I remember all that.
Out of curiosity, if it was such a health crisis, and we were so concerned, why would we wait 3 days to actually impose it? Why wouldn't we do it immediately?
Well, because the people who would enforce it, or the places that, like, businesses would have to make sure that they have masks and stuff stocked up after they had maybe gotten rid of them, maybe thrown them out, maybe stopped using them. That's why. And a lot of people were encouraged not to go out during that period. So there's a kind of rolling time. He's just dumb.
Why wouldn't we do it right now? Maybe you give some people...
I don't know. Maybe that's a good question to ask your dad about the China, banning China. Because he waited 3 days to ban China. He signed the paper and said it doesn't take effect till Monday. And that was way bigger than L.A. Realizing that they've got to reimpose a mask mandate.
Some leeway till they hear the news.
And by the way, that was before everybody kind of was aware of the danger. Your dad was obviously aware of the danger, you know. But the rest of the country wasn't necessarily. He had been lying. He was downplaying it. He admitted to downplaying it. Whereas in Los Angeles, as the news kept coming out that the Delta variant was around and stuff, a lot of the people who were concerned or who hadn't been vaccinated started wearing their masks again. And a lot of people who weren't wearing masks and going out and going, yeah, I've been vaccinated. You know, on the little signs it says, if you've been fully vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask unless it makes you feel comfortable and blah, blah, blah. A lot of the people like you, for example, although he's been vaccinated, who haven't been vaccinated are lying about it, were not wearing masks. And so it really is about getting those people masked again. Everybody else was like, these fucking assholes, and still wearing their masks.
Maybe you just let them know when they walk in somewhere, but why would it be implemented 3 days later instead of right now?
Because of the reasons I stated earlier.
It's because that's what happens when you've ceded control.
Yes, ceded control. That's nothing's worse than the draconian steel, the velvet-gloved steel fist, iron fist of the Soviet Union, where they would go, 3 days from now, boy, you better stop selling blue jeans.
Okay,
look at rock and roll music.
This chart. Okay, this is a chart that shows the spike in corona cases. Okay, again, not mortality or hospitalization rate, because that's even less, apparently, than this spike, from what I've been able to garner online, okay? So
yeah, that's where you spend most of your time.
Hospitalization and death, obviously the critical factors, much more so than even cases, especially...
Well, no, because we don't know the damaging effects of long-haul COVID, and that might actually have more deleterious effects on the economy and on the nation than ultimately even the deaths. Because if you got a bunch of like people who effectively have a wave of a version of COVID-based fibromyalgia that creates a situation where people, the lost productivity gets into the, crests over $1 trillion over the next 10 years, that's kind of a major impact.
Now that we're getting closer to herd immunity and people are more used to it and or have had it and are less susceptible, yada, 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 right? Virology that we've all probably learned over the last few years, right?
Yes, the only reason we're doing this is to protect assholes like your dad's supporters. Seriously. My genuine concern about how, because I've had the Pfizer vaccine. I am of good health. My two main concerns are kids who cannot get vaccinated yet, and the increased number of children who've gotten the Delta variant because people who are in that 8% window can bring it home, or it's just on your hands and you're forgetting to wash your hands like you did, or you're not taking the regular precautions because you want to go back to normal, and you're rubbing elbows with people and there's a lot of humans around, and you just forget, oh, this is the one day that you slip, and then you give it to somebody who's is not aware that they're in danger from it. That's the primary concern. The second one, and largely the oddest part of it, and the one I think most people are struggling with, on a moral level you're not, but it's hard to not make jokes about it half the time, is that we're all doing this to save Trumpsters from themselves. Seriously. Most older people, especially people who want to get the vaccine, have been vaccinated in this country. There are definitely children that haven't, but the vast majority of them aren't going to get it because they're so young. The people that are going to get this and die from it are all these, I thought it was fake. No, I'm sorry. They're going to ventilate me. Get the FaceTime. I need to say goodbye using big tech. I have to say a big tech goodbye to my family. That's what it is. I mean, story after story after story of these jackass Trumpsters and maggots who are like, it's all bullshit. Just give me some ivermectin and some hydroxychloroquine and I'll be fine. I could shake it off. And then the next thing you know, they're proning them and shoving a tube down their throat because their lungs are filling up with scar tissue like they have shingles in their lungs. And these are people who voted against, me in the election, what I wanted. They are on the opposite side of the political spectrum. They are on the extreme of the opposite side of the political spectrum. They are absolutely radicals in their own party. And yet it is on the rest of us to not just decide that people deserve to die if they are stupid. I don't believe stupidity is a capital offense. And so, if it happens to you, there's not much I can do about it. But if I can not give it to you, or not spread it, or not be the conduit by which it is spread to someone like, the maggots that follow him, then it is my moral responsibility. That's why I wear a mask when I'm out. To protect, my son, who I think will be, he's well within the safe area of this, but God, if this got him or got a hold of him in any harsh way, I can't tell you where it would just shred my insides. The single thought of that just makes my blood boil. The chances of that are almost, are infinitesimal. There are many other things that I, should wash my hands and avoid so that my kid doesn't get them, like spinal meningitis and shit like that. I had a friend of mine in high school who had to get a spinal tap because of spinal meningitis when he was in school because of pigeon shit under the bridge we used to all walk under to go to the White Hen to get snacks for lunch. We all walked under there. He's the one who got the spinal meningitis from the pigeon shit under the bridge. Like that, and his parents, I can't imagine. His name is Chris. Good dude. One of my favorite people. Just a solid human being. Loved him. He dated a friend of mine. He was in our group of friends. And, he was a gymnast. Really good health. And I can't, now as an adult, being his, parents' age, how it would just tear me apart that he would be in, I can't, because we were like, oh, fuck, he's sick, this is that. But you're teenagers, you don't really have a grasp on the depth and seriousness of it like the parents do. And I guarantee every other parent around him was like, spinal meningitis, holy shit, it's just awful. Awful. He survived, he lived. He did not, we're not ripping him, he survived. But it was rough on him. And his parents were just, shredded while this was happening. He was just fine. But he fought it off. Because he was a really, like I said, he was a fit, healthy kid. He was on the gym, he was a gymnast. And they did everything right, and they had insurance, and they dumped money. And I remember I visited him in his hospital bed. We all went down and saw him a couple times. To be, as a dad now myself, looking back at what his dad and his mom must have been feeling, holy shit, terrible. And that's way more normal. That's a way higher chance, at this point, than COVID even, statistically. So clean up after yourself. That's why you have work clothes and you change out of them before you hug your kids. And by God, I know this is a total divergent, but this asshole's annoying me. If you do shoot, if you're a gun owner and you go to the range with any regularity, and especially if you go a lot, if you go occasionally, it's not as big a deal. But if you have small children and you go to the range a lot, even if it's outdoors, you are covered in lead dust when you come home. Change your clothes in the garage or outside, like wear a jumpsuit, something over top of it that you can hose down, or leave outside in the wind to let it blow away, to at least dissipate it. Because the number of people who have poisoned their kids with lead just because they love to go shooting, and they take them to the range, and they show up at the range, and they come home and puff, hug their kid. You don't think this, NRA lunacy is an accident, do you? 1,800 unregulated, indoor, poorly ventilated gun ranges in this country full of, prepper assholes who are like, it's all about family and Christ, as soon as they get home from, emptying their AR-15 35 times. Jesus. So I do that, part of it is for my kid, because be sensible. But the reality is, for the most people, especially when they're going to work, is that they're going to bring it, circulate it in an area where assholes like this are going to carry it to someone who hasn't been vaccinated, and they're going to die. That's why. We're all doing this to save maggots from themselves. And guess what? I'm okay with that. I would rather argue politics and conspiracy theories with some dipshit for 10 years than play any part in their demise. Not gonna do it. Ever. Ever. You guys know I'm a hardliner about this stuff. I don't do the whole punch a Nazi thing. I don't call for physical violence. Ever in any circumstance. And I catch shit for being, anti-looter and anti-arsonist sometimes on the extreme left. But I have a zero tolerance policy about it, and I'm not gonna let this asshole talk his dad's supporters into dying Jim Jones style for him. Because if I could have, to me it'd be like passing out, not being a Jim Jones supporter, but passing out the flyers.
Time some of these things get weaker. We've heard about a Delta variant, and pretty soon we're going to see the Beta Sierra variant. When the
Hey, asshole. The Beta and Sierra, I guess the BS version is what he's doing. The Beta we've already had. This Delta variant, there's multiple Delta variants. This is the primary Delta variant. He's going to BS, the bullshit one. That's the joke that he thinks.
BS variant comes out. I imagine the authoritarians will be there pushing it even more heavily.
Well, no, if the BS variant comes out, we will know when you have it because you smell like shit already.
Look at this chart.
Yes.
You see that corner on the right, the little circle? Middle of July? That little tiny spike is why they're going to reimpose mask mandates in Los Angeles County, California. Again.
Yeah, because that, fuckhead, is how this one started, and this one started. And these started because they didn't have full mask mandates. This is when the mask mandates ended in a bunch of places. And this is nationwide, so these are all red states. I appreciate you making this a red line with a pink filler, because this is all Republicans. These are all Republicans. And occasionally, I guess, some collateral damage, libertarian independents, the occasional sovereign citizens sprinkled in.
Hospitalization rates and death rates are even less significantly than that little spike from what I've been
Well, yeah, you obviously don't think it's significant when people die.
able to garner. But that little spike on a chart from the New York Times is why they are imposing this. It's why they're starting it all over.
They're not starting it all over. It's a temporary one to get a hold of it because of the rise in the Delta variant, because it spreads faster and it can be more deadly, and there have been children getting it, and that's really fucking scary. That's why. This isn't going to, I mean, this probably lasts 6 weeks. That's the whole point, though, is to go, all right, not quite yet, here we go. UK is going to have to do a total lockdown.
It's why they're exercising their control. And again,
what control, dude? That's like saying, if there's a law against, surfing in a hurricane.
Because we've allowed it to happen. That little chart from the New York Times.
Well, you let it happen by your dad losing the election, I guess.
Not exactly a conservative publication. Not exactly.
Yeah, I would say TYT is fake news. Sure.
Maskers.
And vast maskers.
Not exactly anti-vaxxers.
Not exactly.
Liberal publication. That's the spike that's causing LA to crack down. And again, it's so important and serious that they're not doing it immediately. They're going to wait 3 days. Guys, watch what's going on.
Watch what's going on. Yeah, what's going on. Apparently, isn't it really difficult to have a super authoritarian overlord that gives you a 3-day vacation on shit when they are helping you gear up for it? Let's see. Rise in Delta, variant, Los Angeles County. Now, there's a reason why, in particular, it had nothing to do with this. He's saying the statistics in, let's see. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Wink. Here's the issue, is that a lot of people got the Johnson & Johnson one and done. And it has the least amount of efficacy against Delta. And so this is what we're seeing in Los Angeles. Delta variant in Los Angeles, 20% of COVID cases now among vaccinated residents. 80% are unvaccinated. So if it can spread through the vaccinated populace, the cases, by the way, are not people who are going to the hospital. Those 20% who have it aren't going to the hospital. They're just testing positive, which means they're shedding virus, which means they're spreading it around to the 80% that may end up in the hospital or dying from it. So that's why. It has nothing to do with some rando story or statistic from the there it is. Sorry, from the New York Times. Let's see. Yeah. So, and this is why. Another version of this. Let's see. Blow this up a little bit. Here you go. So, Delta variant is a game changer, said Los Angeles County Public Health Director Barbara Ferrer on Thursday. Ferrer announced that as the Delta variant became more prevalent in Los Angeles County, the percentage of infections happening among fully vaccinated residents is also rising. In March, vaccinated people amounted for only 2% of infections. And that's, by the way, below the statistical probability of 6 to 8%, of people. So it was way small. In April, that rose to 5%. In May, it was 11%. It stood at 20% in June and is now likely higher. The rise coincides with the rise of the more transmissible Delta variant in the county, which now accounts for 84% of all variants recently identified. There it is. Boink. COVID-19 cases among LA County residents, 16 plus by month, and vaccination status. There's February, 0%, 2%, 5%, 11%, 20%. That also means that the vast majority, there's a huge number of cases going up. There were very little cases, so of course there were 2% because everybody was They'd been masked up for a while. There was not the Delta variant. It was starting. The wild variant was starting to fade, and then this Delta variant showed up. But said Farah, there are still very important reasons for getting vaccinated. If you're vaccinated, the chance of you ending up at the hospital, winding up in the ICU, the chance of you winding up intubated are much less. One reason for the increase, she said, is that more people who are vaccinated, the more people who will end up testing positive. Currently, about 53% of LA County residents are vaccinated. 62% indicated on the county's data dashboard does not include kids under 12 who cannot yet get vaccinated. June 15th reopening may have also had something to do with the spread among vaccinated people, she said. When there's more community transmission, it affects even those who have protection. If you got more people around you who are infected, the more likely you are to get infected. Until we get the transmission under control, masking will help. Speaking of community transmission, Los Angeles continues to see steep increases with 2,767 new cases up from 2,551 on Wednesday and 1,821 on Tuesday. The 7-day average case rate, which was 7.1 1 week ago, has not virtually doubled. Has now that's I think now is what they meant, not virtually. Has now virtually doubled to 12.9 per 100,000. The stat is considered one of the best indicators for the rise and fall of infections because it is both the average and not dependent on the number of tests administered. Cases reported today, there you go. Total deaths, 24,000. Deaths reported today is 13. Currently hospitalized is the big problem. 645 people in LA County. That's 645 beds you can't use for car accidents, heart attacks, strokes, spinal meningitis, what have you. Anything that's acute and the onset is high. Anybody who has massive overdoses or it has to be, put into a chemically induced coma, shit like that. That's your ICU bed for 3-4 days. And if the rolling average eats up most of those, that's when it becomes a problem. One important nuance in the case rate rise is that young people seem to be driving it. While 12.9 per 100,000 is certainly high overall, according to LA officials, the case rate for Angelenos between the ages of 18 and 29 is an eye-popping 25 per 100,000. Certainly a predominant, more transmissible variant is part of it, but the vaccination rate certainly plays into it. While 58% of residents in the age range are vaccinated, the number is 92% among those 65 to 79. Again, these are all people who don't think it's a fucking problem. People like this asshole.
Pay attention, because this stuff is going nuts. I think you should ask if you're from
I'm telling you, it's crazy go nuts. I am happy to have the vaccine and yet trepidatious and yet fearful. Very exciting. But you look coked out of your brain. I'm not going to lie, darling. Darling, I once said to, I was with Telly Savalas. We were playing golf. He played it with the club upside down, a very strange individual. He was like, he called it a gardening pool. I never knew what that meant, but he never had the sucker all the time. It was wonderful. And he said, watch out for that Don Jr. He was running around here, a little scamp, about ankle high or whatever, and he was snorting all the chalk off the greens. We couldn't figure out where our balls were,
California, or if you're Los Angeles County.
It's my Fernando. That's my tribute to Billy Crystal.
Ask your health officials. I think you should be reaching out to them. Again, people wear...
Yeah, bother your health officials because Don Jr. says so.
Wear a mask, they go into a shop, they sit down for dinner, they take it off, then they put it back. Are we kidding ourselves? Again, if you've read the Fauci emails, you know sort of what he really thinks about the mask, right? It was more about optics than anything, essentially.
No, in the beginning it was, and then the studies came to show that it actually helps. Masks help. I mean, obviously, ask yourself how many, colds you've had during COVID. How much flu you've heard about. That's a big part of it. I saw somebody, one of the right-wingers going, whatever happened to the flu? Oh my God, nobody had the flu. Everybody died of COVID. We didn't hear about any flu cases. Because, yeah, everybody was wearing masks.
I got from it. So watch what's going on.
Guys, watch what's going on. Watch what's going on. We have to find out what is going on. What's going on?
A religion to them.
Fauci is a fraud. Do your research. Right.
Okay, that's why reasoning, science, physics, it doesn't apply. Only narrative matters.
Physics?
Because that's what
So you mean the physics of droplets flying out of your face and arcing slightly downward?
Authoritarians do.
Or the idea that the superfine droplets hang in the air for up to an hour, which is a statistical like anomaly about COVID that your father pointed out early on that the science showed. And he was telling everybody to shove a light bulb up their ass.
Pay attention and don't let it happen. Call them out.
Yeah, by the way, his dad is saying, "Don't let it happen. We can't let it happen. We can't let it happen. Don't let it happen." This is a phrase they keep repeating overall. And I have to say, it's more than a tick. It seems like, one of those management books. Like, guys, the quarter is coming to a close. We've got to put some sales. We're looking at the numbers from last quarter. They were not good. We can't let it happen again. We can't let it happen. You guys are responsible. Don't let it happen. Like that kind of phrasing. That's how. Yeah. That's. It seems like that's where it came from.
And make them explain it to you rationally, because to me, none of this makes any sense.
That's because you're dumb. I mean, you're obviously a drug-addled lunatic as well, and with daddy issues, but also because you're just flatly dumb. I don't mean that as a pejorative. I mean it as like a descriptive. Like, you're the only person in the world who's ever grown a beard and made his chin look smaller. That kind of thing.
And I imagine to you it doesn't either.
No, you imagine wrong. All right, so successful test. Thanks, Egon. Oh, that was jagged. That's fun. Oh, that's the stuff from the window coming up. So thanks for jumping on with me tonight while I tested the new gear and the setup, and hopefully, right now I'm hovering around 70% CPU usage from the modifications I made while doing this test broadcast. So thank you guys for joining me and helping me work through it and letting me know when things were choppy and shitty and falling apart. So that means a lot. So I will be on at the regular time tomorrow at 3 o'clock Pacific time. Some of you may even be seeing the stream for the first time live anyways, because it's at a different hour, I guess. And very soon I will, of course, be starting the 24-hour nonstop Hal Sparks live stream where I'm just on all the goddamn time because there's far too much stuff for me to cover in 2.5 hours. Maybe when my kid goes back to school. During the hours he's at school, that's the that's the time I'll just eat up with that. So, but during the summer, that's where I'd rather be because he's a hugger. This is pretty adorable. Anyways, I love you guys. I appreciate you being here. It means a lot. Thank you for helping me get limp through this. And I will see you guys tomorrow at our regular time. And I hope the buttons work. Here we go. And thank you for the super chats, by the way. Those of you that threw them in on this broadcast, and when it broke up a couple times, it didn't quite sometimes register or whatever, and I had to turn off the alert box. Thank you for your help and support all during this. And thanks for the new computer, guys, because you guys, the patrons, patreon.com/HalSparks, that's what we use to buy the computer. So, and add peripherals to it, the ones I installed today, instead of the one it came with, which is nothing wrong with this, just not going to do the job. But the one I put in today is actually carrying the load of, once I switched over to hardware, it seems to smooth out a lot. I have a troll in the chat. We always have trolls in the chat. That's okay. The troll, you guys, first of all, guys, you have to remember that, years ago, trolls used to actually have some sort of emotional impact on people. When people were new to the internet and didn't know what to expect, when a troll would show up, they're like, oh my god, he's saying very untoward things. Now nobody gives a shit. The best thing about trolls, though, and many of our regular viewers know this, is that they spread the show further than we can, because you probably watch a lot of the same things on YouTube that I watch in terms of like-minded stuff. Now, granted, I watch a lot of weird stuff so that I can show it to you, but in the normal, what I like to watch zone of things, and what you like to watch, it's pretty much in the same ballpark, clips of David Pakman and Rachel Maddow and 3D printing and, cat videos, whatever your thing is. But you stay kind of in that bubble without too much variation, and if I'm broadcasting into that bubble, it doesn't really go anywhere. The trolls may not be aware of this, but they do. By watching the show and lending us their eyeballs, and even the more they type, the better, they actually trigger parts of the algorithm, especially on YouTube, that spread the show out to other viewers. So whatever they like, my show starts to show up in the suggested viewing of the other shows that they like, because YouTube thinks attention is good. It doesn't know whether you like something or hate it. It doesn't really give a shit. So it goes, oh, you like this? Okay, well, we'll tell everybody that watches what you watch that you like this too. And even if you give a thumbs down or not interested, it'll still come up because it made you interact. And see, the algorithm doesn't care if you go, click, I don't like that. It literally goes, there's a little thing it's like a dog. If you say its name, it thinks it's being called. It doesn't care whether you're scolding or not. It just goes like, and runs up. And then the algorithm, if you click not interested or hate it or whatever, that kind of stuff, it will actually go, oh, that made them move. Whatever, there's something about this show that made them take action. Normally they just sit passively and watch, but in this particular case, there's something in this that this was more. There was something about this. Maybe other people will like this. Maybe in their zone of things, it certainly kept their attention for a while. They may have said not interested, but they stayed for the whole show. That's weird. So anyways, so around here on this particular show, and you guys know that I'm particularly charitable to our brothers and sisters on the other side of the spectrum, both emotionally and politically, and never call for violence, and am capable of conversing with nearly anyone, short of the Paul Gosars and the Nathan Bedford Forrest worshippers of the world. Obviously there exists a basket of deplorables. They're adorable. And but everybody else we can kind of interact with. It's not a big problem. So even when they come here to troll, it's like watching someone wave a tennis racket in a hurricane. It's kind of like, oh, stop the trees. It's it's fun. It's a good time. So we appreciate that they come here. And does Twitch get trolls? Not as many, because there's a little more monetary stuff involved. Like you can do a sub-only chat, and you can, so it's easy to broom them out. Although on the truth is, the eyeball thing on Twitch is so much higher that like some of the best Twitch streamers that make the most money and make the biggest living live almost entirely, I'm not kidding, on trolls. Like if you watch Cenk Uyghur's nephew Hassan, right, who's a big streamer, his feed, his chat feed is almost 100% Pepe frogs. It's all like Reddit racist memes and stuff like that. It's just nonstop. But he's he's making money off of it, so he kind of doesn't care. But it's consistent. It's amazing. So there are those kind of it's kind of soft. It's like 13-year-olds who just emoji trolls. It's not quite that heavy, but yeah. Does Hal ever do interviews? Yeah, I do. Yeah. I don't interview people, if that's what you're wondering. I have sort of a Breaking Bad attitude about that. I am the one who knocks. You know what I mean? You can interview me. I don't interview other people. That's no. I do this show because of what I'm saying. That's the value I bring. It's not fair what they've done to Pepe. I agree. The left has seized and redistributed Pepe. Have they? Is there a Marxist Pepe farm now? Have they seized the means of Pepe production? Yeah. So let's see. Yes. Thank you, Andrea, for recommending that. I'm going to sign off now. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, follow, whatever zone you're on. Help out if you can with the show, and if you can't afford to help out, enjoy it because other people have given you the ability to watch it and enjoy it. So be thankful to the others, even if they're trolls who have spread it. And by the way, we're getting close, very close to 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's a nice cresting point. We need 25 for the next big algorithm jump. So spread the love. Pass it around. Same thing on Twitch. We need about 1,000 subscribers on there. We're growing. It's taking time. We're up against shows that have been on for, been streaming daily for decades, and, literally. So, yes, and buy a t-shirt. That's true. Anyways, take care of yourself and take care of somebody else, and I will see you guys tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific time for Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Okay, bye.
authoritarian. That's what they do. That's what happens when you give up your rights and blindly follow dictators. So, in breaking news on Thursday afternoon, Los Angeles County in California just announced that it will reimpose an indoor mask mandate, regardless of your vaccination status, beginning Saturday night at 11:59 p.m. Now, a couple of things come to mind. We've already